and welcome to the How2Girl TV. I'm Carol Dodsley, better known as the How2Girl, and tonight I am so excited. I have a really special guest on the show, and his name's Siteman Garland, and he's the creator, the host of one of the internet's most popular, successful and longest running web shows, The Rise to the Top. There's over 250,000 passionate people known as Rise Nation that tune in to watch and listen and learn from David's uncensored conversations with interesting, hard-to-reach, successful people, ranging from the millionaire matchmaker Patty Stanger to New York Times best-selling author Tim Ferriss to fashion mogul Damon John. And I am just so happy and so excited to have David on the show with me tonight. Okie doke. So, welcome to the show, David. It's so exciting to have you on here.
I'm excited. I gotta tell you, I was tired like 5 minutes ago, and now I am excited. I was tired because I do weird things with food all the time, and I'm having like one of those like low-carb days. But you know what, Carol? You excite me, so I'm excited to be here, for sure.
Oh, wow. Thank you. You know, obviously I know your story. I've read up about you. I've listened to your shows. But people that are listening, and especially because I'm in the UK, so I'm not in the big world of America, a lot of people will never have heard of you. Can you just sort of, you do TV presenting now. You've got your own show, which is absolutely fantastic. But you started off in a completely different world. I mean, you majored in women's studies.
Yeah,
you know, what was
that is true, first of all. So you do not see a lot of straight white males that majored in women's studies, and that is what I have a degree on. If you look on the wall over here, which you cannot see, but if you could, you would see my little women's studies degree right next to my wife's huge medical degree up on the wall here. It's like 9/10 and 1/10, right? But yes, I went to Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm from in the U.S., and honestly, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I'd major in history. I didn't really have a business bug at that point. I wasn't one of those people that kind of grew up and was like, I can't wait to do business. That wasn't my thing. I was a hockey player. I liked to have fun. I liked, learning, but I didn't know what I was going to do. And I just took one class and I was like, all right, this is going to be horrible, but I'm going to take it. I want to see what it's like. I'm always like trying new things, and ended up just loving it. And, you got 4 years to do something that you find interesting. I figured, hey, why not let it be women's studies?
Cool. And that's sort of, it sounds so strange because, like you just said, you were a hockey player.
Yeah, I was a hockey player. I was in a fraternity. I've always been I'm a sensitive guy. My mom raised me right. I bring a sensitive. I'm not an alpha when it comes to burying the chest and doing that kind of thing as a guy. But I did all these things, and I just I saw an intro to women's studies class, and I gotta be honest, I kind of took it as a joke, but I really liked reading and writing. And it was smaller. The classes were 20 people or 10 people or 15 people, and you could have these really great discussions. And now I just happen to have really great discussions just by doing a web show and a podcast. But even back then, I wanted to be in class where it wasn't just a lecture with 500 people sitting there silent. I like to have that kind of interaction. That's just my personality. Anything that I do, I'd love to have kind of that interaction, and that was maybe an early way of doing it.
So, of course, because you love having that interaction, that's why you love doing your show, because you've got interaction all the time.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I mean, that's something that, it really drives me is hanging out with good people, family, friends, and just great people in general. And that fuels my show because, for example, I get the same or similar energy to having a barbecue with friends and hanging out and grilling and having a great time and sitting there for 5 hours telling stories. I try to bottle that up into my business and also, with guests on my show. So that I view it as, much more of having those fun conversations that you would have. You just kind of bring them onto a screen and with even cooler people. So to me, that's what fuels it. I love being around people. If I'm not, I get very sad, very quickly. So
I love the way you said there, you bring onto the show the same as if you were having a barbecue with your friends and everything. You know, I've watched some of TV shows online, and people are sitting there very correct, and they're
Yeah.
so concerned that they get their lighting right and that the background is right, and they can't see a bit of paper, and I've got to ask you these questions, and right, okay, so now, you know, that's, to me, that isn't what this is all about. We're all about social. You know, you're on the internet. People want conversation. They want to gel and have rapport with people, and that's what you bring. That's what I love about your show. When you started your show, what was it that drove you to want, apart from being social and loving bringing all that social to the show, what exactly was it you wanted to achieve with it?
Oh man, that is a fantastic question. What did I want to achieve when I first started it? And I came up with the idea in a coffee shop, and there wasn't necessarily an achievement goal when I started it. It was more of a case of that. I mean, just 100% honest. It was more of a case of saying, like, this sounds exciting to me. I'm gonna make this happen. It's gonna happen, and that's how it's gonna go down. And so, by the way, I'm gonna hand my wife her iPod here, who's interrupting our interview, but you can't see her. There we go. And so, for me, it wasn't like, here's my goal. I want to make this amount of money, or I want to have this freedom, or I want to do this, or I want to be recognized for this. It was more of a case of I discovered that I loved having these conversations through a radio show that I did, and I said to myself, you know what? I want to continue to do this. If I can do this more days than I don't do it, I'm doing something right, and that's kind of how it started.
Cool. I think that because I've read on your website that one of your favorite, it's either a quote or sayings, money follows passion.
Right, and not the other way around.
Yeah.
Because that's I think, where I personally struggle with this, and I know a lot of people do as well. People come to me and they say, just periodically, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to do a web show, or I want to do this and that. And when you dig deep, you can quickly find out what people just see this as a money making opportunity, and which ones are really in it for the love of it. And yes, by the way, of course, yes, we want to turn it into a business as well. For me, when I started it, it's hard. When I started the Rise to the Top, and it started actually as a local television show in St. Louis, I was putting a lot of my savings into it. I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was having a blast, right? And a lot of traditional business, advisors or people or whatever would say, this is stupid. Like, you should be figuring out something where you can make some real money. I don't care if you like it that much. Just it'll teach you how to run a business. And I said, screw it. All right, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna make it happen, and I don't care. And for the longevity of it is one of the biggest reasons for success, because too many people get into, and I'm using my industry as an example. So let's just say podcasting, new media, broadcasting, and they say, you know what, this can make some money. And they do it, and they're not going to win that battle, because it's really a battle of attrition. Can you keep going? Can you keep figuring it out? Can you keep doing it? Because overnight success takes at least a few years. So that's the key thing there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, especially in this day and age, everybody's online now, so everything's a lot more open. But so many people are getting, oh, there's the magic button. I can make you rich overnight. We can teach you this, we can teach you that. And I think you hit it on the nail there. Overnight success takes time. There's no such thing as that magic button we're all looking for. Well, I'm not looking for, but people are looking for, is there?
Right, yeah, I mean, perfect example is because we see overnight success. Whenever you see an overnight, quote unquote, overnight success story, number one, you only see the surface of it, right? So you see that this happened, you don't know what led up to it. You just see that magically someone became successful. One of my earliest interviews was with a celebrity here in the United States. Maybe you've heard of her, Patty Stanger, the millionaire matchmaker. Okay, and Patty is, a celebrity matchmaker, but what she's best known for, is she's got the show, The Millionaire Matchmaker, on Bravo TV, where she, matches people up, and she does her whole spiel, and she does this thing. And many people assume that she was an overnight success. They said, Patty, like, what, you just wake up one day and you had a magic show, and then all this good stuff happened. Now you have books, and, your brand has grown. I was asking her, I flew out to California and had a conversation with her, and she said, how it took 10 years to get that show. pitching, different companies, rejection, going this way, trying that thing, forgetting about it, keep going and going and going until she got it. All the public sees is lady with show, big success. They don't see those years leading up to it, and I think that's a lot of times anyone that explodes onto the scene, there's a backstory there. So I always find that stuff interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating. I think Tim Ferriss is one also, although he has the 4-day work week, but it took him so many years or months to get so that he could have 4 days work week.
Right, and it's actually 4 hours, even less than 4 days,
sorry, yes.
Which is impressive in itself. But it's, yeah, I mean, you look at anyone that's had that thing, I think that there's this behind the scenes trials and tribulations and challenges and things that go on to make it. And that's why I notice that the people that are the most successful for the longest term, doing something, that they really enjoy, they battled through those lean, tough years, whatever it is, whether it's broadcasting, writing a book, creating a company, whatever it may be. They battle through those years because they know they're going to keep going. It just doesn't come that easy,
Yeah, and I think that if that passion is driving it, that's what helps them to do that battling. If it's only money, they'll move on to the next, I can make money over there, and they won't stick to that passion, will they?
Right, yeah, and I see that all the time. I see people that, whatever the fad of the moment is, they're hopping into it. You see, if blogging's hot, a few years ago, so let's all blog and make $1 zillion, or, oh wait, no, forget blogging. It's all about Twitter, whatever that, especially online, because I think people misconstrue what it really takes to build a successful business. And I'm not talking about having 500 employees. You want to have 0, awesome, that's great stuff. It's not about having 500 employees, but people don't just think that it's just, turn a button and do it. No matter what the system is, you're going to have to work your way up to it.
Yeah, exactly. So with your show, obviously you've interviewed some really top people. And I was listening to an interview you were having with somebody else the other day. And I think one of them, was it Seth Godin, took you 2 years before he agreed?
Tim Ferriss, actually, you already mentioned him. 4-hour work week was 2 years. Seth Godin was a few months, so we'll give him credit for being a little easier, huh?
So what would you say to somebody, because at the moment online TV shows are becoming sort of like the latest fashion statement, and lots of people are going, you've got to start interviewing people and you'll make loads of money and everything, which we've just spoken about. You've got to be in it for the long term. It's not a quick, sharp thing. But what would you say to someone who's just starting out, who perhaps we've got a lot, especially in the UK, there's a lot of people being made redundant. They're losing their jobs. They want to start out. They can't get a new job. So if they wanted to go into this sort of a thing, obviously they can. But what would you say to them as a starting point? Because their first issue right now is, I love the idea of that, but I need to make money to pay my bills.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the reality of that, okay, is that you're not going to make money right away with it. You're not going to make money. Let me just tell you, I worked, I don't want to say around the clock, because that's going to make it seem far worse than it was. But, for me, it took about 2 years of dedication to make good money at this. And I'm defining good money as 6 figures. Okay, so, and I started this in 2008, but good money started coming after 2 years of a lot of hustle and work and blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of fun, right? All these things combined. So what I would say to someone that's into this, first of all, I always encourage people, if you're, again, where do you fall on the spectrum? Are you saying, I want to do this because I want to make money? Well, let's have another conversation later on. If you're doing this and you're saying, you know what, I am passionate, these are the subjects I'm passionate about, I want to create a show around this, and I understand it's going to take some time to build up my brand and build up kind of my social equity and build up my reputation and build up the thing, but I want to know what to do. Those are people I love helping, and by the way, they're going to end up being the ones with the money, right? So for me, what I see it as, if you're doing something else right now, okay, and you're like, I want to make this into a full-time gig, I think you start it as a part-time gig. Okay, you started as a part-time gig. Now, I was lucky, in my case, I had some savings built up, and even when I had another company called Pro Inline Hockey that I did right before this, so I knew I had a little bit of leeway when I started to do so, that I could go all in. So you got to know, number one, assess yourself. Are you the type of person that has to dive in and God bless your heart, you're going to make it somehow? Or are you a person that needs to be a little bit more conservative and saying, okay, I want to start this as a side hustle, and then maybe one day I'm going to be able to do it. So let me give you an example of what I would recommend doing. Gregory Ng, which is a funny name to pronounce and even different to spell. It's actually N-G, Gregory Ng, N-G. He's got a show called Freezer Burns, okay? Freezer Burns. What he does is, and this'll make you giggle, he gets frozen food, he puts it in the microwave, and he eats it and he talks about it, okay?
Okay.
500 plus episodes.
Wow.
500 plus episodes of Freezer Burns. It makes him now 6 figures. People are so passionate about Freezer Burns. There's several people that have tattoos of Freezer Burns on them like crazy people, okay? Now, here's the interesting thing. Gregory has done this all while having a full-time day job and a wife and kids.
Mm-hmm.
Full-time day job and a wife and kids. So no excuses here. There's plenty of ways he could have said, I don't have time for this. I mean, fair, right? He's got kids and the thing and whatever. But you know what? After work, he plays with the kids. He has dinner. He hangs out with his wife. He goes into his little studio. He starts shooting at 10 p.m. or whatever it is. He shoots several episodes. During his lunch breaks, he sneaks in and interacts with people. He makes it happen. And now he's at the point now where soon, and he can do this now, but very, very soon, he can just go off and do this on his own. He doesn't need this other company at this point. But for him, it was the weekends, it was the nights, it was the early mornings, and I think that's also a great passion tester for people that are seeing. Because if you start it and you start doing it and you're like, God, this isn't for me, no harm, no foul. Go off and go back to what you're doing, because it's going to be a self-selecting process of doing so. And I think that's the best way to get started is say, okay, this is how much time I have. We got to get this going.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the fact that you've spoken there about somebody who they did it alongside something else and they put the extra time, the effort. There are a lot of people out there that say, oh, but I've got a part-time job I don't have time for, which means to me they haven't got a core desire for it. They're not passionate enough about it, so they're not going to make it work. Would you agree with that?
I would if you want to come up with excuses, it's not going to work, right? I mean, because that's just let me give you an example of this. Dating, okay? When dating, there's always the girl that says, I just don't have the time, and he's okay, but I don't really have the time. I've got other things I've got going on. Da 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 da. Next thing you know, she finds the right guy, okay, at some point. Someone she's like madly in love with, falls head and heels with. What happens? Time magically reappears. Now she's got plenty of time to go hang out with this guy and spend time with him and whatever. It's all about how you're going to prioritize it, And so I've seen people that have done it all. I am a weird exception where I was like, I'm going to invest everything I have in this, and I'm just going to go, and if I go down, I'm going down with the ship, and I'll figure it out. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't even recommend what I did to most people because I'm crazy, right? So when I see other people, if you want to take the conservative approach, it starts with saying not why you can't do it. It starts saying these are the times I can do it. I can start this at 8 p.m. I can start this at 6 a.m. and work on it for 3 hours a day. Whatever it might be, those seem to be the winners, or the people that find the solution. As opposed to, if the problem is I've only got 2 hours a day to work on that, we can work within that, right? If the problem is I have all these excuses, I can't get it going, that's harder to work with. So I think looking on the glass half full thing is going to be really a great way to start.
Yeah, exactly. And if somebody was starting now, because I think when you started, Facebook wasn't so big, Twitter, all the social media stuff wasn't there. You did your first interviews face to face. You didn't even do them using Skype, I believe. If for people starting now, obviously they've got all those extra bits that they can use. Do you think that's going to make it easier for them than it was for you, or will it actually make it more confusing because they've got so many different avenues to think about how they're going to get this working and how they're going to get out there and promote it all?
Yeah, no, great question on that because yeah, and when I started, I was an early adapter to social media, so that was an advantage at the time. Now it's like how do you cut through the clutter and do these different things? I think there's no better time to start than now, because number one, as you said, the technology is so much easier. Whether you want to do a video show or an audio show, I don't care which. They both have advantages and disadvantages. Number one, you've got great equipment available now for cheap. And cheap is a relative term, but I'm saying a couple $100 at least can get you started. If you can't afford that, you get a $50 microphone, sit in front of your computer and talk. I mean, if you have less than that, go get that and then get started. But the thing is, the tools are all abundant. The key is not getting lost in the technology. And by what I mean by that is just going with every single rabbit hole that you could go down with technology. Here's what you need. Number one, you need a microphone. Whether you're doing a video show or audio show, you need a microphone. Number two, you need a website. WordPress works great. If you don't have a big budget to get a custom designer or a small budget, you can use something like Tumblr or Postgres. Get the site up. You need easy recording tools. There's several easy ones. I use Ecamm's call recorder for Skype for video interviews. There's other ones like Audacity. There's a lot of easy recording tools. And then you need to publish it. And then what you spend the rest of your time doing is building the audience. And so one of my recommendations on that part is choosing 2 sites that you really want to focus on getting to know people on for networking into your show. 2, not 10. 2. And so what I mean by that, for me, it was Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
I wanted to go in there. I wanted to connect with other successful entrepreneurs. I wanted to connect with other influencers in the space, like bloggers and other show hosts and people like that. And there's no easier way to do that on Twitter and connect with them, and also Facebook, another great way to do so. And, there's 50 different ways you can go about it, but I think bringing it down to a couple core things and also building an email list. You can leave. No big deal.
I've got a visitor.
You can head out. Oh, dog. Yes.
We have a puppy that's joined us.
What's his or her name?
Her name's Tia.
Tia. All right. Well, welcome to the show, Tia. We're talking about avoiding the overwhelm, and I think that's critical. But build an email list, Carol. If I was to give people one advice, build a VIP list. That's what I call it. Whatever you want to call it, build that free email list. Because if Facebook shuts down or Twitter shuts down or something shuts down, you're going to always have that email list that you own. So I would encourage people to sign up via email. It's one of the most critical mistakes I made early on. I didn't focus on that early on as much as I should have. And so that is number one takeaway there, for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, because I'm known a lot for being a Facebook specialist is one of the things that I do. And people are on Facebook and saying, and there's a lot of people there saying, oh, you don't need a list, you've got Facebook. It's like, no, you need a list, because the list is an asset. Facebook is a tool. And
right.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it is so important. Social media to me is a tool to use to build your assets and build your business. It isn't an asset for the business.
Right, exactly. Social media can be great social proof. If someone goes to your page and sees, you have 8 bazillion likes. If someone, sees your following on Twitter, it can be decent social proof. But really, yeah, it's a relationship builder. It's a great way of interacting, but it's not space you own, right? And so, and that's, a lot of people, I was at a conference relatively recently where someone said they would trade in 100 Facebook fans for, I think they said, 1 email address for someone that really wants to hear from them. Not to spam. I'm saying, someone that double opts in that wants to hear from them, that asset is important, but maybe we get them from Facebook, but you want to have that thing that you really own.
Yeah, exactly. And you say you have, I know on your site it says join up for the VIP list. Most people out there are saying if you want people to join your list, you have to offer them something in exchange for their name and their email. Yours says join up my VIP list. Somebody that's not very well known and hasn't got 307 episodes on their show, what are they actually offering to people? If they start building that list through their show, what are they going to offer people that people go, yeah, I really want to give them my email address?
Yeah, first of all, excellent. You're just killing it with the conversation today, Carol, by the way. I am loving it. I am loving it. Great question. So let me give you an example, because for my VIP list, first of all, there's no, like, you get this gift or whatever.
Right.
It's like, here's the VIP list, enter your email. For Create Awesome Interviews, my product to teach people how to do their own interview shows, there's an opt-in, right? You get a free video series, and then you're on the list, and you do that kind of stuff, right? So I've done it both ways, and they're different. The challenge, I get it. The free gift, first of all, works. There's no way around it. A free gift works. People like a free gift. The problem that I have with it for a show like The Rise to the Top, where I interview what I say badass entrepreneurs. By saying that, if you're putting this on iTunes, now you might have to hit explicit, but whatever. When I interview badass entrepreneurs, I realized for this show, which is a little bit broad, okay? Meaning, like, there's people that are coming in that are small business owners, entrepreneurs, would-be entrepreneurs, startup people, business people, all coming in, right? What I've noticed just from my show is that there's not something specific enough that I can offer for free right now that would hit everyone and they would still want to be on the VIP list. Like, I built up enough brand equity now where people just will sign up for it because they know who I am, they've trusted it, they've listened, they do whatever. Now, comma, or period, new paragraph.
I know, you talk so fast.
Yeah, paragraph, period, no caffeine today. Period, new paragraph. For someone getting started, if you can get specific, and this really takes a good understanding, because this is not easy. You know, if you know that people are coming to your show to solve this problem, to hear from these kind of people, that they're super interested in something specific. Let's say you have a show that's you're going to interview dog trainers, and the dog trainers are going to offer their top tips on training dogs. Okay, you might be able to offer, an extra interview with another one as a bonus if you sign up for an email list. You might be able to offer, a little compilation of some of the 10 tricks, the 10 best tricks that you learned during the interviews as a compilation. So you don't even need to go create something necessarily separate on your own. You can take stuff out of your current interviews and use that as an incentive to sign up for the list. That's something I might play with. I might, say, hey, get a list of the 50 top quotes from The Rise to the Top. Which I do not feel like going through to go find, but hopefully I can find someone to do so, because that sounds absolutely miserable now that I said it out loud. But that could be an asset to get people to sign up, but you have to be careful that you're not alienating people that might be on that list that aren't on. Oh, there's the other one.
There's the other one.
There's the other one. Oh, is that a girl too?
This is a girl too. This is Holly.
Hi, Holly. Oh,
she's gone.
So you have to be careful about it, that you're broad enough for a show that you can build the audience that you want, but not too specific where someone says, you know what, that's not for me, it's too specific. So there's a fine line there, but that's my very long answer to that question.
So basically, it depends what your show's about, whether or not you can offer free, or whether or not you're actually people are just going to go, yes, I really want to sign up for this.
Right, and you might be able to segment even more later. So, for example, people that tune into The Rise to the Top, there are those people that I just mentioned. There's entrepreneurs, startup people, business people, stuff like that. There's a subset, that is what I call, like yourself, Carol, that are podcasters, web show hosts, and new media broadcasters. Not everyone, but there is. And so I have a separate thing for that through Create Awesome Interviews, and actually I'm launching a separate site on this very soon, which I am super excited about, and that's just another way to segment. For example, if someone's doing the dog training show, they might think that the audience is dog owners that want to learn how to train their dogs. They might end up finding out later on that there's also other dog trainers that are tuning in to hear about the latest tips and tricks from dog trainers. So sometimes your audience can be a little bit different and change over time, and it might be different than what you think on day one. And I think that's an interesting lesson too that people can take away.
Yeah, and you saying that, because obviously when people are starting, we talked about how they're going to build their audience. And obviously, if they think this is who their audience is, that's where they're going to choose to hang out and promote and market. But they have to be flexible enough to think, but you might need to move as the show grows. You might find, and let your audience, because we're in a consumer-led time now. We're no longer in a marketing-led time. Let the consumer tell you. today I personally did a little bit of research because I was umming and ahhing, do I go with my own brand, the How2Girl TV, which is where I started, or do I go with How to Get Social TV, which is what a lot of people have said, oh, do that. So I asked people on Facebook, and we came up with the answer that I really wanted, which is the How2Girl TV, because that makes me burn and get all excited much more than the other. And, you know, so I'm now sticking with my original gut feeling and my passion, which is the How2Girl TV. But I let them lead me. I didn't just make the decision. Do you think that's a good way to go for people?
Yes and no.
But for other people.
Right. So here's what I mean. Gary Vaynerchuk, creator of Wine Library TV, one of the most successful web TV hosts in history. He did 1,000 episodes of it. He had a great quote once that was, "He listens to nobody and he listens to everybody."
Yeah.
He listens to nobody, he listens to everybody. So here's what I mean by that. And this is the way I feel about it too. Number one, at the end of the day, you have to go with your gut. Because if you're not excited about the direction you're taking the show, it's going to suck.
Yeah.
It's going to suck. I could ask 50 people right now, or 500 or 5,000 people, and get a response very quickly. And I could say, do you guys want more of this content or that content, right? Or this or that. The problem is, while I agree that it is great for the brand, it is great to engage people like that, it is great to hear ideas. I often get ideas from my community that I would have never thought of. It's fantastic to involve people in the conversation, but at the end of the day, you have to make the call.
Yeah.
And I've made the wrong call before. I've listened too much.
About that.
Yeah, I've listened too much before, and I've strayed from the core.
Yeah.
For example, the Rise to the Top is not it's not an internet marketing show, right? Do we discuss internet marketing? Have I had on a lot of the top internet marketers in the world? Yes. Okay? But it's a show about, what I said, badass entrepreneurs coming on to that's what it's all about. But sometimes I went down weird rabbit holes over the last 4 years, internet marketing, where I just get obsessed with it, and I just go down there, and then people are like, more, but I can't do one more on it because I'm burnt out, Another one was, I just decided one day, for God knows what reason, 2 years ago, that I was just gonna interview anyone, random people. That made no sense either. So there, you have to be careful with it, because again, though, you can't not be excited about it. That's the thing. It starts with you. If I had 50 people tell me that I need to do a show on Twitter again or something like that in the future, I'm not going to do it. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say that if you do one, Carol, I'll send them the link to that. So that's the way we're going to do it, So it's hard. It's hard. It's not a finite answer.
Yeah. And when you were talking about you've been down some rabbit holes and you've gone off track, I was actually going to ask you about, because I was listening into one of yours, and I think I was reading on your blog as well. At one stage, you started to bring in some sporty stuff because you're very athletic and into that. And that actually didn't work very well, did it?
Well,
with your current audience.
Well, I did this twice. So I learned my lesson after twice. So number one, the first time I did it was about 2 years ago. That's when I went more broad. And I said, I don't want to interview just successful entrepreneurs. I want to interview successful, interesting people. Okay? And actually the idea had some clout. And then I had some athletes on. I had some pro boxers and UFC fighters. And that was really, really good. But it wasn't the core of the show. It just wasn't the core of the show. And so I pull it back. Time number two was after I did a fitness transformation last year. People are like, we have so many fitness questions and have fitness guys. So I did something called Rise Fitness Show, which I ran for about 6 to 8 weeks. The problem, Carol, actually was the response was huge. The response was great to it. At the time, though, I didn't have the infrastructure. What I should have done is, in retrospect, is done that on a different site.
Yeah.
Called it Rise Fitness Show, on a different site with its own list and its own thing and its own deal, and gone from there. As opposed to blending. I have a tendency to try to blend everything together as opposed to separate things out, right? So now, for example, on this new site that I'm coming out with, that's going to be coming out soon, and actually I'll reveal the name right here. A lot of people don't know the name at all. Actually, I don't think anyone does. No, nobody really does. So the name of the new site is going to be the Talk to the Top. So we have the Rise to the Top and the Talk to the Top, which is going to be all about, podcasting. It's going to have a completely different model. It's going to be membership based. It's very, very cool. But this was a case of me not making this mistake again. Okay? What I mean by that is old school David would have rebranded the Rise to the Top to fit in this model. So I would have rebranded it and said, you know what? I'm just going to do content for podcasters and web show hosts and stuff like that. Forget this other stuff. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change the Rise to the Top again. No. I'm keeping the Rise to the Top where it should be, and I'm making this as a new brand that comes off of it, and I have some ideas for some other brands in the future as well. So that is something that I've learned is that, your show, if your show's about dog training, and you're like, I now want to do a show about pizza, okay? Don't have the dog training pizza hour. Okay? Set up another show. There's a lot of people now that not only are doing one show, but when they keep going and they want to try something else, they start creating their own little tiny networks. Some people want to go that route. Some people, like Gary Vaynerchuk, do one show for 1,000 episodes. It just depends on who you are and who your personality is. For me, I want to stay engaged. I want to stay excited about it. And so for me, I do have to branch out because it's the right thing to do for my brand.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's great that and thank you for sharing the name of the new one with me first. That's brilliant. Because that does then give you a different audience, isn't it? That is then a specific audience. Whereas trying to bundle too much into one, although your Rise to the Top is very varied because it is lots of different people, but it's all about entrepreneurs and business. And the other one is all going to be, from what you've just said, for people who are doing what you're doing and want to learn what you're doing, yeah?
Correct, exactly. So, and also those people many of them are interested in the Rise to the Top, so that they, because they're entrepreneurs, but so the site is exactly going to split that way. And because it's so specific, the way that I'm doing it is different. So the Rise to the Top is a show with sponsors and partners and things like that. It's free. That's how it works. This new one, which will be a fun experiment as well, is going to be membership based. So it's going to be with an application. So it's not going to be War and Peace, but there'll be an application because what I'm looking to do is create the #1 most passionate and amazing community of podcasters and web show hosts. I want people that are in it. I want people that care about it. I want people that have already started too. So like, for example, I don't care if they have 5 shows, but I don't want people that are just trying to figure it out at that first stage. There's other sites that I refer people to for that. This is going to be for people that already have a show. And with a membership component, they're going to get 2 huge things that I'm very, very excited about. Number 1 is that they're going to get access to a private show that I'm going to be doing every week. And that private show, just for members, is going to be interviews with other web show hosts and podcasters. It's going to be interviews with experts teaching something specific for podcasters and web show hosts. It's going to be news and tips. It's going to be a lot of one-to-many work just for this audience. And then there's going to be a huge networking component of it as well, with forums just for this high-end crowd to bounce ideas. This is working, this isn't, I have a question, different things, but the power is going to be in the community. The power is not going to be in David Siteman Garland talking in the third person and coming in and answering every single question, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, the power is not going to be in me being the expert over the entire world here. The power in me is being the gatherer of these amazing people and bringing content and bringing the connections together so that more people can make it in this industry. And that's really what it's all about.
Wow, that's really exciting stuff, isn't it? I think that's brilliant. And you do, because you said there it's not for beginners, but I know that you have recently launched a program that is for beginners, for people that are starting and want to learn. I mean, tonight you've spoken about you need the equipment, you need to build your list, you need your website, you need your microphone, and you've got a program that is out that at the end of this I'll actually put a link underneath the video so that people can go to that, which is for people who want to start out.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really when I created, it's called Create Awesome Interviews, as you know, and I created it really for 2 types of people. Type number 1 is exactly what you mentioned. No experience. The idea of doing an interview-based show gets them going. but they're like, what the heck do I do? How do I get guests? How do I get the site? I don't know what's going on. How do I make money? Like, what's the equipment? All these laundry list of questions. How do I know they exist? Because if you enter my email and you logged into my email on a daily basis, you would see what I call the barrage of death that comes to me. God bless their hearts. I appreciate every single email that I get all the time from anyone. But by the time you get to email 10,407 that asks me how to do a side-by-side interview, I was like, okay, all right, we got to do something. So it's the beginning mode of people that want to do this, and we take them A to Z, exactly how to do everything, okay? It's also for people, and I didn't even think about this. I got to be honest, Carol, when I created the product, I did not think it would be for these people as well, but what I've found is that a huge amount of the customers for Create Awesome Interviews have a show, but are stuck in mud a little bit. You know, they have a show, a few different interviews, but they're not going so well. You know, maybe they're like, God, my questions suck, or my video sucks, or I have a show, I've got 15 shows, and I have 6 viewers, and 4 are my cat. You know, there's many issues. So what I've actually noticed is that they've gotten huge value out of it. I had someone named Jason Olsrider just email me. He does a show called Rockstar Chiropractic. He interviews rockstar chiropractors, okay? And who would have thought?
Yeah.
And he's had this show for a while, and he said, you know what? It wasn't the big concepts that you had in the course, which he said were great. It was about the little concepts, like little tweaks to my website and little changes in my marketing. And he's like, look, I completely revamped the site. He redid the whole thing. It looks amazing, and he's already gotten a huge response from it. So those are the 2 categories of people, and it's all digital, so people can download, watch, do it all on their own time, and you get all my secrets, so all my special secrets.
Cool. Because I was going to ask you about that, and I was going to actually say, you've just mentioned it, you get so many questions. So many people emailing, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I mean, you answer lots of questions. You've answered loads and given lots of information tonight. One thing that I'm finding a lot of people are struggling with is they're getting that sort of, not that sort of quantity, but they're getting emails or they're getting people messaging them about what they're doing. And they're wanting to know, well, how do I say no? How do you actually sort of deal with that? Because you can't answer all those questions.
Right, yeah. So that's another good one. One of my favorite topics too. It's that, yeah, so first of all, my first 2 years, I said yes. My first 2 years, oh, you want to do an interview in Singapore for 17 hours? Great. You know what I mean? Because I was building the brand.
Yeah.
I was building the brand, and I built my brand on accessibility, which is both awesome and terrible at the same time. Great because I get all these messages. Terrible because I don't have enough time in the day now anymore, no longer, that I can say yes to anything in the last couple of years, right? I mean, I'd love to because I'm a yes person, which is, my wife's a no person, I'm a yes person, and that's how we balance out. But what I've learned to do is just be straight up honest with people, and people are more understanding than you think. So what I do is I have a couple different ways of going about it, but for the most part, when I personally respond to things that I can't do, I just say, I just have to be honest. I just don't have the time right now. And sometimes I'll go into an explanation that's probably unnecessary, but I'll say something like, I'd love to help out, but unfortunately, while I get so many requests a day, I'm super flattered about it. This is kind of my canned response. I'm super flattered by it. I really appreciate it. But if I answered every single thing individually, and I have 0 time for the rise to the top, and I've never seen my wife. So unfortunately, and if I have somewhere else I can send them that will answer their question, I do that as well. And I have an assistant now that helps me with this as well. So it's a challenge, but you have to realize where you're at in the game. If you come out early on and you're looking to build your reputation and you're looking to get that brand out there and get going, yes should be the more frequent response than no. There's going to get a point, and you'll know when it is. I'm not going to tell you when it is. You're going to know when it is, where it flips. It flips. And you've got too much coming in than you can put out. Then you're going to have to start putting the parameters in. But what I've noticed is the best thing to do is just say, unfortunately you can't. And I prefer to do that over ignoring people. I prefer to do that. Sometimes it's just not reality of it. I mean, occasionally I just don't have time to respond to things, but just be upfront with people. Don't leave a gray ground either and say kind of or maybe. You either have to say yes or no.
Yeah, I think that's very true, because there's a lot of people out there now where you don't get a response of any kind. And for me personally, I know people are busy and not everybody can respond. But to me, if you're too busy to respond, you should have somebody else that can respond for you, because otherwise you're giving a very negative, oh yeah, I love to talk to you on a show and I love to give out my blogs and I love to do this, but I can't be bothered to answer your emails. To me, that's sort of like, okay, if you can't answer my emails, I don't actually want to talk to you. I don't care how big you are. If you're that big, you should have somebody sitting there, a VA or whatever, that can at least send or set up an auto response on your emails that says thank you very much. I think it's that reputation and that rapport, isn't it, with people who are contacting you.
Yeah, and having that person kind of reflect your brand is the key, because, I know this. I've got friends that are super busy, and I sometimes hear back from the VA. I send my VA in a lot of times. I mean, it's just a bit, but she's always just like me. She's always upbeat and positive. She's never going to be, mean to people or anything like that. Like, I remember, I just think of this example. I'm not going to name who it is because it would be hilarious, but there was a guy that I knew who was in a past interview a long, long time ago, best-selling author, and I asked him a question about something via email, and I am not kidding, Carol. I am not exaggerating. He emailed me back 1 year and 3 months later on that email and said that he just got to it. 1 year and 3 months later. Now, how do you think I made? Like, then I was just like, I kind of want to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not that I expected him to do anything or had some kind of request or something, but like, it was more of a courteous thing. Yeah, not every cold email is going to get necessarily responded to out of nowhere, pitching a guest for the show or something like that. But we try our very best to get back at people. Either me or Linda or someone else on my team is going to get back to people, because that's the way I'd want it. I want to hear a no rather than a nah, nothing,
Yeah, and I think you just hit the nail on the head there. It's the way you would work, and so it's what you give to other people. It's what it's this two-way thing, isn't it? And, I get a lot of people who would get very upset if I didn't answer their emails, but they won't answer mine. And
right.
It's like, well, hang on a minute, hang on.
Yeah, that's crap. Yeah, that happens all the time. Like, where someone doesn't need anything at the time, and so they ignore all their emails, and then they need something, and they come here and like, oh, really? Really? Do you know what I mean? And so you don't want to be that person. You just, and the way you do it is you gotta put your shoe on the other foot and say, all right, I'm this person. How does this look? How does this look? And I think that's important.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. I think that's great. Whew, I'm out of breath listening to you.
I think I need a shower.
I'm usually really cold and I'm really warm tonight. I think because I'm so excited, I'm so buzzing, because I love doing these interviews. And it's just been absolutely fascinating listening to you, and the fact that you can talk so fast and get so much stuff in, and it's like, my goodness, does this guy take a breath?
No, I first of all, Carol, I've been lucky enough to be on a lot of different shows and be interviewed by a lot of people. I gotta tell you, you were one of my, and I never say this, people will check you on this when I send this out to my people. They will back me up on this. This has been one of my favorite conversations I've done in an interview. You're an excellent conversationalist, and it made it very much at home. And I love that you brought up a lot of subjects that people don't. And I find that as a guest on your show to be awesome, because a lot of people that come on that do shows, a lot of times you're going to hear the same questions, and it's always great to hear a different perspective or slightly different look at things, and so I appreciate that big time. That's why you got me to probably talk so fast, I got excited.
That is really cool. Wow, this is going to be such a great one when I put it out as well, because I'm just going to be so proud of it. It's like, oh, listen to what Siteman Garland said about me. Because I don't normally blow my own trumpet or anything that much, but I think I've found my place. I just am loving doing the interviews with people, and I don't find that I'm clamming up, and I don't need a list of questions, because to me it is about, and I think maybe because it's the type of person I am, anybody I talk to, I actually feel that they're my friends, even if I've only just met them.
Right.
I don't, and it's not like, oh, I'm interviewing the really popular and really famous so and so, and I'm scared because everybody's a person, you know. And
Oh yeah, totally agree. And you actually listen when you don't have those. And this is a good tip for people that are out there that want to do interviews or thinking about doing something like this. Is that list of questions, right? You're thinking about your next question or your next topic the whole time. I don't care what you say. You're just thinking about, all right, I got to get somehow from here to here. But what I noticed, which especially early on in this conversation, is that you were listening to the answers, right? And that's what I try to do when I'm interviewing people. And that's where you get your next topic and conversation. The guest will steer you interesting ways if you allow him or her to do so. If you don't, you're going to get kind of the canned interview that most people give. And so when you listen, though, and look for clues of topics and things, and if they're very excited about something, you knew exactly where to go down the holes. So it was a good way to go.
Brilliant. I am very proud of myself, as well as being really, really grateful that you came on. And I'm hoping that perhaps in the future I can get you back again.
All right, I'll be back. It's a deal.
You'll be back. Cool. That is brilliant. Thank you so much. And if anybody wants to know more about your programs, there are links under the video so they can click through and come over and find out more, because I know that the I've forgotten the name, sorry, that program's out.
Oh, Create Awesome Interviews.
That's it, Create Awesome Interviews. Haha, I made a boob. Create Awesome Interviews is a great program for people to come and look at if they're interested in doing this sort of a thing. So all the links will be there for everybody. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, my pleasure, Carol. A bow. I never do a bow, but I'm doing a bow. So thank you. Do it. But you know what, Carol, you excite me, so I'm excited to be here. But I've always been I'm a sensitive guy. My mom raised me right. You can leave. No big deal.
I've got a busy
You can head out. Oh, dog. Yes.
We have a puppy that's joined us.
What's his or her name?
Her name's Tia.
Tia. All right. Well, welcome to the show, Tia. We're talking about comma or period in paragraph. All right. I'll be back. Oh, my pleasure, Carol. A bow. I never do a bow, but I'm doing a bow. So thank you.
Okay, we can breathe.
Hang up. No, I'm just kidding.